Alright, so my husband has this running theory that as soon as you hit like 30, 31, you just like start falling in love with animal print things and like especially leopard print. And I was like, no, you're silly. I will never be that person. I do not like animal print, blah, blah, blah. And here we are. He's right. It just starts sneaking into your life and you can't help it. Don't care what he thinks though, because I think this is a cute dress. Anyway, hey guys, thanks for coming back to check out another video. Maybe we have figured out the lighting. I think this is just the best we can do. So hopefully that's okay for you guys. Either way, it's been about 6 months since we filmed a video like this. We are just going to take a look at some good old pans in my collection, some pan porn, if you will. I know people call it that. I feel like a little weird calling it that, but whatever. So yeah, it's been about 6 months, if I recall, since we did this. I don't really keep track of like what you guys have already seen or what's new. Maybe I should. If you would like something like that, let me know. I would be more than happy to like keep better track of it, but I just like to get on here and show you like the pans in my collection, because some of these items you haven't seen in a while, or some of them are things that aren't like actively being like project pans, so you don't see them in like updates and things like that. I will leave the video that's about 6 months old linked in the description box just in case you want to go check that out and maybe see some of the differences. I only have face products here with me. I do not have like any eyeshadows that I'm going to show you. If you would like a tour of eyeshadow pans, let me know. It has drastically shrunk since the move because a number of reasons, but that's neither here nor there because it has nothing to do with this video. So we're going to go in order how you would apply things to your face. So primers first. Alright, so I have 2 primers from e.l.f. These are like potted primers, so I technically call it that you can hit pan in it because, you know, it's in a jar. You can hit the bottom of the jar. So the first one I will show you is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. Hopefully you can see the pan there in the center. This is a fine primer. It's not bad. It's not great. It's not my favorite. I really love the Benefit Porefessional one. This is my second e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer though. And I just think that I could find something at the drugstore that's more comparable to the Benefit one. So I'm happy to be like working on this, and once it gets moved out of my collection, I won't be repurchasing that one, but it's not like terrible. This next one is also from e.l.f. It's the Luminous Putty Primer. Now this actually is terrible. I don't know if you can see, maybe if I come in a little bit closer, but there is the bottom of the jar in this. This primer, it has like a very light yellow like base to it, but this makes you look like the Tin Man when you wear it. It is terrible. I have to wear a very, very full coverage matte foundation with this. I can't wear any of like my medium coverage ones because the Tin Man of this just like peeks through too much and it looks so off. So I would not recommend this. I am slowly going to work it out of my collection. I probably will not be wearing it anytime soon since we're coming into like spring and summer, but maybe I'll pull it back out in the winter and try to really finish it off before we hit 2022, which is so weird to think about. Okay, so I don't have anything like foundation or concealers or any kind of like cream products like that to show you that have pan on them. I do have 2 face powders though. So the first one is from Essence. It's the All About Matte powder. Now my packaging broke, which is so annoying. I really like Essence. I think a lot of their products are actually pretty well made, and I think their price point can't be beat. And I know like part of the reason they're so cheap is, you know, because they do kind of skim on the packaging, but this is a little ridiculous. That's neither here nor there though. You just want to see the nice shiny pan. Look at that. Whew, that is a lot. So I use this powder to set down my concealer underneath my eyes. I've been using it to also set down my eyeshadow primer, and then I use it like on my smile lines and around my nose, just places where I tend to crease a lot more. So it's not terrible. If you go too heavy-handed with this though, it does create a bit of a white cast, which is frustrating. I go back and forth on whether or not I like this product or not, so I don't know if this would be something that I would like end up repurchasing. I am thinking though, it's getting to the point where I might need to repress this soon, so we might do another like repress and chill with me video. But yeah, that's my first face powder to show you. The second one that I have comes from Wet n Wild, and so it's a contouring duo. I have the caramel toffee, I think that's what it says, 750A caramel toffee. So this is their contouring palette where it has like a, I think they call it a highlighter, but it's not glittery, it's matte. So I use it as a face powder, and then a bronzer. So I have only worn the bronzer a handful of times, but the face powder I have come a long way with. Hopefully you can see that in there. There is quite a nice healthy dip, or not even dip, there's quite a nice healthy pan in there. And this is another product where my brush that I use for my face is so like large and fluffy. It's getting harder and harder to access the product in here. So this is another item that I do want to repress fairly soon. But yeah, really enjoying this. I wouldn't like repurchase this necessarily. One, I have like so many face powders, but two, I don't enjoy the bronzer as much, and so to me it's kind of wasteful to repurchase this just for the face powder when I'm not going to get a lot of use out of the bronzer. Alright, so speaking of bronzers, let's talk about powder bronzers. I don't have any like cream bronzers that are potted. I only have one cream bronzer in my collection. It's from Milk Makeup, so it's like this stick one, so there's no pan to be had on that. But I do have 4 powder bronzers to share with you. The first one we will look at is from CYO. Now, as you guys know, this brand is discontinued, which breaks my heart. This is one of their products that I absolutely love. This is either, I think this is my second one of this bronzer, and I finished off the first one. So this is called a like a bronzing and illuminating compact because it does have the 3 strips, the blush, bronzer, and highlighter. But I just swirl my brush and use it just as a bronzer. So it's in the shade, the Radiant one. This is in my Graveyard Project pan, and I do have a goal to like finish this off. So we do have a tiny bit of pan in there. So one reason why the pan I think is just in the bronzer, even though I said I swirl my brush in it and kind of mix all 3 shades to do my bronzer, when I like bronze up my nose and stuff like that, I take an angled brush and I just focus it in on the bronzer pan. So technically the bronzer pan does get a little bit more usage than the other 2. So I think that's why the pan is right there in the middle of this one. But another pan to celebrate and be happy about. So this next one is actually a highlighter. It's from The Balm. It's the Bonnie Luminizer. This is just far too dark for me to use as a highlighter, so I use it as a glowy bronzer. I really like the effect of it. I don't get a lot of use out of it like in the cooler months and in the winter time, but from here until probably September, this is just going to live in my little Shop My Stash basket because, like I said, I absolutely love glowy bronzers, and there's quite a good pan on this, I think. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Pro tip, I guess, if you have highlighters that are too dark for you, but they're kind of on that bronzy golden side, maybe try it. Maybe try frankening it if you want, in with a matte bronzer to make a glowy one. That one, it's a perfect bronzer shade to me, which is why I don't like franken it. I just put on my matte bronzer and then this on top of it. But that's neither here nor there. All right, the next one is from Bare Minerals. I think this has been discontinued. I can't find it on Ulta's website is where I purchased it, and then the last time I looked at Bare Minerals, I couldn't find it either. But it's their Invisible Bronze Bronzer, and I have mine in the shade Light. Now, this is a baked product, so the pan in it is like the waffle grid. But yeah, I do have a nice sizable pan on this one. I really hope this isn't discontinued because this is probably my favorite cool toned light bronzer in my collection. It is perfect for fall and winter in my opinion. And if it's been discontinued, it's going to be really hard for me to want to pull it out this winter and like use it up. I know we all have that weird thing where once something has been discontinued, we're like so afraid to use it. I need to work on that and get out of that mindset because I don't want this to like go off in my collection. It's not that old. Like, it's not in jeopardy of doing that, but I'm just saying, like, I am that person who will hoard things when they've been discontinued. So then the last bronzer I have is from Ulta Beauty. This was a gift with purchase. This is in my Project Random Uses. And I think it's just growing and growing. Like, each time I use this as my bronzer, I almost have side pan right here. Not quite there, but close. It's so thin in there, which is why I think that the pan just expands so quickly and with every use. This is another product that I am curious about repressing, or I guess not curious, like I've repressed products before and I haven't had any issues with it. It's just finding the time to sit down and do it. I have a lot more items that need to be repressed than I thought that I did. Alright, so next we will do the blushes that have pan in my collection. I have 2 powder blushes and 2 cream blushes, if I'm not mistaken. The first one you guys are all quite familiar with. It is my CYO cream blush in the shade Smart Talk that is in my Partners in Cream. Just slowly working away on it. I think the pan has even grown since that last update. I feel like now it is getting a bit hard to take my beauty blender or even my stippling brush from e.l.f. and get like an even nice application for this product. So this might be one where I'm like repressing it too. I use air quotations because you don't use like alcohol to repress them. All I do with my cream blushes is I take my little like spatula tool and I sanitize that, and then I just mush all of the product back down into the center, and then I take a damp paper towel and press that on top of it to kind of like mound it down, you know. But that's been working for me. That's how I repressed like a bunch of the blushes in my Bomb How About Them Apples palette last year when I was working on it. So just in case you were wondering. But yeah, speaking of that palette, I'm holding it in my hand. I have 1 cream blush left in this palette. It would have been so nice to have finished this palette off before we got into 2021. It just didn't happen. I'm still really proud of all the progress that I made on this palette last year. It will be 2 years old, if I'm not mistaken, by the time July rolls around, and I would love to have this final blush finished off by then. But the only one I have left is Crisp, and I am currently working on it in the Graveyard Project pan. So I just alternate each day. Like I wore the CYO one today, so like tomorrow when I do my makeup, I'll wear Crisp, and I think that the pan is expanding. This one though, this palette's been discontinued, so maybe it doesn't really matter to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. All of the other cream blushes in this palette were very like emollient and creamy, not like in a greasy way, but Crisp is like a stiffer formula, and I don't know if it's because it has like some shimmer to it. It's like formulated differently, but it is the most slow going blush from this palette. I feel like all of the other ones went much more quickly than Crisp, so I don't know how long he will be kicking around for, but I'm just gonna enjoy them. I have loved that whole palette, and yeah. So let's move on into our powder blushes before I ramble too much. So I do have one from ColourPop. This is in the shade Frisky Business. I depotted this from its packaging. Most of ColourPop, I think all of ColourPop products are magnetic, just in case you're like wondering. I believe this was from their like Baby Got Peach collection, but this is just a great peachy blush, as you would imagine. It's very light. It was very easy to hit pan in this. I don't recall that it took a lot of use or a lot of concentrated effort. Their blushes are on the more powdery side, at least this one in particular. Now my blush from them from Sailor Moon, it has like glitters and stuff in it. I don't know if it's formulated differently, but that one seems to be more firmly pressed than this one. So this was quite easy to hit pan in. And like I said, I have one other blush. I don't know the name of this. I know it's from Ofra, and I just call it my Peachy Ofra blush. I believe this came from one of their holiday palettes that they released maybe in like 2018 or 2019, where they had like a highlighter and some eyeshadows and some face products. I depotted that. I know that I did own one of them. I just don't know if it was 2018 or 2019, but I depotted a bunch of things from it, used up some things, passed along some things, but this blush is remaining from that palette, and whew, I do not have very much blush left in there. I am so gung-ho on finishing this off here in the next like month or two, ultimately just by the end of the year. But I am just so hyper focused on this. It's not currently being worked on in any project. I really want to finish off this blush this year, and so I think it's getting to the point obviously where I do need to repress this. It is so thin in the pan there, and I'm kind of worried that if I don't repress it soon that it will start to like crumble and flake off, and then I'll lose product from it. So yeah, this is just my way of saying expect a repressing video coming up shortly. Alright, so we will do highlighters next, and much like blushes, I have 2 pans in my cream highlighters and 2 pans in my regular powder highlighters. And my highlighter collection is a little ridiculous in my opinion, not because of the amount of highlighters, but the amount of highlighters that look the same. Like, I have so many duplicates and I don't have a lot of pan to show for it. So I really want to put kind of more of an effort as we're coming into like the last 6-7 months of the year to really rotate through my highlighters and try to hit a pan on as many of them as I can, rather than just simply finishing any of them off. But this first one I'm holding is from ColourPop. It's the shade Smoke and Whistles. This is my absolute hands down favorite highlighter. And now this is in my Partners in Cream, and I do want to finish this off this year. This is my oldest cream. Like, it's a cream to powder, but it's the Super Shock, so we all know how that is. I classify them as creams. It's my oldest like cream highlighter that I have. But yeah, I'm just slowly working away on it still, but there's some nice pan in there. It's very thin around the sides. Greatly enjoying this. Like I said, it's my favorite highlighter, so it is not a struggle to have to reach for this daily. And I like mixing my ColourPop Super Shock highlighters with powder highlighters. So I apply these with my finger, and I feel like with your finger you can't really blend out your highlighter as effectively if you use a brush. These don't work well with a brush in my opinion. So that's why I layer them with a powder highlighter, because I can pick that up on a brush and then kind of layer them and concoct my own like unique highlighter, which I really enjoy. So the other cream highlighter is from ColourPop. This is in the shade Monster. This is such a pretty, like, it's like a white with a pink shift. I did not think that I would like this highlighter as much as I do. I like it much more in the colder months. It's just something about like the iciness of the white with the pink. It's just, it screams winter to me. So it doesn't get much use right now, but it is much like the Smoke and Whistles. It is getting pretty thin around the sides there. So yeah, this would be another one where I, maybe not this year, but eventually would love to finish this off. I mean, would love to finish off all my makeup, right? Because you don't want money wasted, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about our 2 powder highlighters. So the first one I have comes from the Balm, and it is the Mary Luminizer, which I think is probably one of the most underrated highlighters. Like, if you are someone who doesn't want that like bam in your face highlighter, this is perfect. This is the perfect like golden kind of champagne highlighter that is not too intense. It's very subtle. It does layer well, and I don't find that the Balm highlighters accentuate any texture. So I greatly love this. Highly recommend it. But let's show you the pan, because that's what you're here for. So I've went back and forth on panning this and like to completion, because this is the most represented color in my highlighter collection, are like these golden champagne colors. And when I pull all of my like highlighters out that fall into that category, obviously this one has the most use on it because it's the only one with pan. Also, this one is just beautiful to mix with other highlighters. And so, but then I'm like, I don't really want to pan a highlighter this year. Like I said, I just would rather maybe hit pan on as many of them as I can, and then next year really focus in on finishing off a powder highlighter. But I don't know. The year is still technically young, and I am so flaky that I will probably change my mind 10 more times before I make a decision. The last pan of highlighter that I have, though, is from Ofra as well. This is Pillow Talk. This was gifted to me from Laura. This is my favorite pink highlighter. And I know some people say they don't like the Ofra formula, that they find that it accentuates texture. I don't have a lot of texture on my cheeks and my forehead, so I can't like attest to that. I just think that they wear beautifully, apply beautifully, and I just love the pink. So this one also has a nice sizable pan there in the center. It's so pretty. It's so easy and effortless to wear this one. Much like the Mary Luminizer, this one just mixes so beautifully with so many other highlighters in my collection. Okay, so then the last product to talk about is my brow pomade from ABH. This is the Dip Brow Pomade in the shade Taupe. Again, it's in like a little glass like jar, so I count it as having pan on it. And this one, again, it's not like in a project because I only have this brow pomade. Well, no, that's a lie. I did receive for my birthday a gift of this. So I have like this in a brand new bottle or jar. But basically this is my only brow pomade, so I use it every day, so I don't feel like it's necessary to put it like in a project pan, but I do like to show it to you in these types of videos so that you can see just how much progress I have made on it. So there is so little left in here. I think this is coming up on the 1.5 year mark of age, if I'm not mistaken. So these pomades last a super long time. Like, I think this is the greatest value other than like a pencil. And you guys know, you've seen it, I don't really have a lot of eyebrows to work with. So absolutely love these. I think that they wear beautifully, cover beautifully, and then I just kind of like set them with a powder and go about my day. I have rehydrated this with some jojoba oil. I think I put in 1 drop too many of the jojoba oil, so it's kind of like liquidy in there. It's not so liquidy that it like moves around in the jar, but it is a lot not creamier, because it's pretty creamy when they're like brand new, but it's just, yeah, more liquidy. It's not a hassle to use. It still applies really well. However, I feel like since adding the jojoba oil to it to help like rehydrate it, it thinned out the product a little bit, and so this is actually going to take longer than I anticipated to finish it off, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's it. That is all of my like makeup items that have pan on them as I sit here right now. I just thought it would be fun to take this little tour, kind of give you guys some updates. Let me know again if you want to see like an eyeshadow palette version of this, and that is it. I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will just catch you in the next one. Bye.